That's so exciting when I get to do that. We will call the meeting to order, and we will do roll call.
Cecilia's not with us tonight. Kelly.
Here.
Thank you. Wilbur.
Here.
Katie's not with us tonight. Darcy.
Here.
Chrissy.
Here.
Michelle.
Here.
And I wanted to make sure we introduce Jason
Wagner as our new member, and Molly Connolly as our new ADA coordinator and member.
Awesome, welcome. Yay.
Yay!
Super excited to have you, Jason, and you, Molly. But having Jason will just add a new dynamic because we want to make sure that we are creating a sense of belonging for folks in our deaf and hard of hearing community within the city of Fishers, and we're super excited about that. So thank you, Jason, for your willingness to serve. First of all, we have the approval of the previous minutes from our April 15th meeting. I would just need a
So
motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve and waive the reading of the minutes. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability minutes for 4/15/25 can be approved.
Thank you.
We will go through committee updates, and we will start with housing. Wilbur?
All right. I've attended several housing conferences and just have some points of information I'll pass along. In Fishers, Indiana, in 46037 zip code, fair market value for a two-bedroom rental is going for $1,810. In 46038, fair market value for a two-bedroom rental is $1,790. This is a point of information. One of the things we looked is we'd love to find out if it's possible to build middle-scale housing in Fishers, and middle-scale housing would mean multifamily spaces on smaller-sized lots. It would be $340,000 to $545,000 townhomes on smaller lots, and the idea of smaller parcels make it more affordable to build. A point of information I found back when I was younger, people would spend about 3 times their annual income on a house. They're saying today it's about 5 times your annual income on a house. I don't know if that makes it, I think that makes it a lot less affordable, but just to give you an idea where housing values are. The current vacancy rate of affordable, well, not affordable, of just available housing is currently 5% in Hamilton County. They're saying 7 to 9% is considered more stable. So we just don't have enough housing available. They're saying, they were suggesting quadplexes would be more affordable as far as getting more housing on smaller property. And one of the questions we raised is, could tax credits possibly help us get more building inventory in Fishers? Almost done. To try to make land costs more affordable, we're looking at land banks or land trusts or just flat out vacant land. And I volunteered to be on the Hamilton County Committee for Land Trust because I would love to see some of that money come to Fishers, not just elsewhere in Hamilton County. One of the points that that I heard that it was just interesting when we look at affordable is somebody buys a fixer-upper, that's normally, you cannot get a conventional mortgage on a fixer-upper. So that puts houses out of a range. And I don't know if we have any of these in Fishers, but post-World War II homes, which was basically 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, are just not desirable. People just don't want those. And almost last, one of the points of information that I wanted to share was in Brownsburg, they were actually building to rent, and those units are going for over $3,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
So I can't really consider those terribly affordable either. Lastly, I had a couple of points here. from our table, our point of view table, they were saying we really need options to handle the special needs community in Fishers. Currently, there are no housing options unless an individual family can afford to build something themselves. And they were saying, could the city offer more incentives to gain opportunities for special needs housing? Whether, you know, we got South Point Village built, but it's full. We got the hand projects built, but they're full. And there's just really nothing available. And I guess that's it.
Yeah, the challenge is for folks who are in the service delivery system, which is about 25 to 30% of all people who would actually be eligible for services, are reliant on Social Security income. And so if you're looking at, let's say, $9,200 a year as Social Security income, even if you had 3 people go together, that's what, let's say, close to 40 grand, maybe, if you squeeze it. And if you had to go 5 times that amount to buy a house for $200,000, there are no homes like that. So I don't know if, would Ross be the person of expertise that could help us with planning and zoning and that kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
Yep, so I would suggest that we have a conversation with Ross about what's capable. I know the first affordable housing in Fishers that did use tax credits to specifically address special needs housing was South Point Village.
Right.
I don't believe that there's been anything since then. And it's just something we would have to inquire. I know just in general, the available land in Fishers is absolutely
Limited.
very, very limited.
So I did see a chart that was just interesting. It was just the employment opportunities that are out there, and they were saying the professional, scientific, and technical services opportunity, which represents 6.5% of the workforce, is the only income level that could probably afford to live in Fishers.
Yeah.
The good news is we've kind of focused on that as far as all the businesses we're bringing to Fishers.
Sure.
But they were saying that over 47.25% of the total economy would be below any of the obvious job opportunities out there. That's the workforce that you're talking about.
Yeah, and South Point Village also, within the Indiana Economic Development Corporation grants that afford things like South Point Village to be built, one of the things in there was also workforce housing. The challenge is, so let's say we find housing for folks with special needs, are their staff going to have to drive so far to get here because they can't afford to live in Fishers as employees? So it is a really difficult. I will say that both housing and transportation, which I think are 2 of our biggest issues in Fishers, to adequately address all people, let alone just people with special needs of some kind. It is, what was I going to say? What was the first part of the sentence?
What was that?
What did I say?
All of the housing in Fishers?
Being able to afford to live here,
I don't know.
affordable
I don't know.
housing,
Don't know.
It'll come back to
Never
me.
mind, it'll come back around. So sorry.
transportation's an issue.
Oh, it just transportation and housing aren't just for issues for us, but nationally it's an issue everywhere.
Oh, is it?
And so it's really a challenge when you look at, we are also in a higher socioeconomic group than many counties, many cities and municipalities in Indiana. So we're kind of double challenged.
I've been
Fishers
making a point to ask people that I know are using the Hamilton County transportation services that are available, how reliable they are, and I'm hearing more and more people say they can count on it.
Oh,
So
good, that's great.
It
They have moved the.
it must be getting better.
They've tried to transition.
They transitioned to a new software platform that is more automating, and that in combination with them putting actual transportation that is here instead of all starting in Noblesville has, I think, helped with a little bit with accessibility and reliability. Any questions on the housing report for Wilbur?
No.
Hearing none, we will go to employment and the lovely ladies to my right.
So we had a great meeting on Tuesday, and I think Michelle and I have always enjoyed what we've done in October, but I think based on, we had Megan Baumgartner, make sure we get that name right, we had to remind people on it, and talked about having her facilitate some communication with some businesses that either the schools or service providers have had issues getting into, or new businesses that she thinks might be able to take advantage of some of the students or clients or whatever, if nothing else, even just for exploration and job discovery and such. So we kind of talked about moving forward to looking in October, at the beginning of the month, doing something that the city would invite people to. So it wouldn't necessarily be, you know, Michelle and I inviting employers, but maybe putting Megan's name on there and somebody else to get more different faces at the
Yeah.
table, right? And taking advantage of some of the partnerships that we already have, making sure some of those key supporters are there. And then from there, continuing at the end of the month, doing what we have been doing, and looking at it in two ways that we could set it up with, that we know we've got 5 new employers that need somebody, so this area can be completely designated to, you know, participant-friendly interviews. And this one would still stay with the working on your resume, working on those interview skills with unfamiliar faces and those other things that seem to have gone so well the past 2 years that we've done it.
So really work on engaging some newer employers, as we've got folks who are coming through the VR system and that type of thing that have, may have a bachelor's degree or that type of thing. So some different skill sets coming through now that order of selections is done, and trying to make some of those connections with some of these new businesses, and maybe even just kind of a meet and greet, coffee chat type thing to start the month off with, and then to finish with this kind of resume interview
Can I
workshop.
talk about the training I did at Conner Prairie?
Yeah, which I heard was really, really good.
Thank you. So,
I believe you offered your services.
I did. So as a part of this
It's in the
early
notes, you got that in the notes, right, Kay?
early October event that would, you know, be as much of a networking and awareness opportunity for people to come to the table. I had recently been asked to do a training for all staff at Conner Prairie, and it had to do with really how our perception and biases impacts our ability and our willingness to interact with people who may not be like us. And so specifically from a customer service perspective in businesses, but then as well as the employment. And we talked about potentially modifying that for a little bit of a mini training to be a part of that early October, and I offered my services to the city of Fishers for free. I'd not charge you. But I think that would be really cool. The underlying message really is so much the perception, right? We all believe certain things about certain people based on our own experiences, and helping people see things from a broader perspective and how they can be a part of a solution, not only as an employer, but to employees and to the customers that visit their business. So I'm excited about being a part of that. Anything else with employment?
No, I think that's it.
Excellent. Community support. Molly, I would like to introduce you as our new ADA coordinator for the City of Fishers, which makes you a happy member of this committee. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what on earth you're doing?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for letting me join your crew. I have been with the City of Fishers for 6 years and am the Director of Employee and Customer Success. So I manage our front-facing team that works with any residents or guests who want to do any transaction with the city. So if they're paying a traffic ticket, a permit, a vital record, you name it. So Fishers Utilities, sewer, storm, trash, we engage with all of them. And then also this front desk here at City Hall, we manage that team. And then I also get to work closely with our HR department and employee experience. So those are kind of my roles now, and it makes sense that I kind of slide into this ADA coordinator because a lot of the requests come straight to front desk of City Hall, or questions come through customer service. So just like you were saying, I would love to have our customer service team trained
They would
with your
be
expertise.
lovely participants at our October
Yes,
event.
that's right. So thanks for letting me join your crew.
That would be great. When we talk about community support and making sure that Fishers is a city where all people are included, you know, forever, you'll hear Scott and all of our PR stuff says that Fishers is vibrant, entrepreneurial, smart, some other things too. And I think the cool thing was last year, Mayor Fadness said for all people, not just for some, you know, and I love that he is with us in that vision, but do we have the video to show?
We do. Can we cue that up with IT?
We wanted to show a brief video, so I didn't even know this was happening, but they've been showing the Pacers game out in, what's that area called?
The AMP lawn.
AMP. So outdoors, but there's a huge screen, and they were very intentional about closed captioning. And this is a thank you video from those folks. Great turnout. But you know that just the simple closed captioning of anything like that makes it so much more accessible for all. And not just people who are deaf and hard of hearing. I mean, because I think we think of that as a group of people in a community within our community. But I'll just use myself as an example. If I'm in large, loud places I can't hear and I find myself reading people's lips, I'm not part of the deaf and hard of hearing community, but oftentimes closed captioning really helps me. And that goes really to the universal design and access that we talk about so much within this committee. So big thanks to the City of Fishers for making that a good experience for all people. And thanks for sharing the video, Jason. I want to talk a little bit about community support in terms of services and some things that are happening at the state level. I know we have a large group of family members that follow the work of this group and what's happening and kind of rely on us for some messaging. So services are delivered through a program called the Home and Community-Based Program, and we often refer to them as waivers. And for those that don't know what that means, because it's very confusing to people, it is a waiver of the rules of Medicaid as a health insurance program only, which allows Medicaid then to provide services instead of just things you think about through insurance like medications or treatments or therapies. And so the waiver program is where people receive services like music therapy, behavioral therapy, rec therapy, and residential programs within our communities across Indiana. We have between family support waiver, CIH waiver, traumatic brain injury waiver, and now the health and wellness waiver, which is really for folks who have complex medical needs up to age 60. All of those waivers combined serve more than 50,000 people across the state of Indiana, so it's a lot of folks. That happens, each state gets to decide how they're going to spend their Medicaid funds, and it is funded through a match of Indiana dollars, and for every Indiana dollar, we get so many federal dollars through Medicaid. That's how the Medicaid pot is managed. There's a lot of news headlines around Medicaid right now, what could happen, what is going to happen, what might happen. I will say from my own perspective, there's a great deal of fear that is probably not founded at this point. The state gets to manage their own budget, and at this point, our budget is protecting services to people with intellectual disabilities. So that's good news. What some people may not understand is when those services are decided and how they're going to be delivered and what they're called and who can get what, All of that is managed in a contract with the federal government from the state of Indiana. If you change anything about that, you have to do what's called a waiver amendment, which is basically how are we going to change that contract with the state of Indiana. Currently, we are amidst the first waiver amendment that will happen this year, and that is just to get all waivers to be more similar, because the health and wellness waiver, which I explained was for medically complex folks under the age of 60, and the traumatic brain injury waiver used to be managed under the Division of Aging. Now it is all four waivers will be managed under the authority of the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services. I know this is very complicated, especially if you don't care. So, but for those that care, I want to make sure that everyone's very clear about what's happening. Right now, we're in the midst of an amendment that gets those more similar and integrates a new level of care tool, which helps people find out if they're eligible for services. So it doesn't have great impact, especially for folks who are already in services. They're probably going to continue to be in services. They will remain eligible based on the diagnosis that they have always been eligible. However, in the works currently is a second amendment that will happen to the waiver this year, with intended implementation date of somewhere between November or December 1st, is what I've heard. And there will be some significant changes in service delivery systems. Those have not been announced publicly yet. I would suspect that there will be some sharing of that information at the upcoming Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services Council meeting, which is a public meeting that happens the second or third Wednesday of every month. And as that information becomes available, I will certainly share it with this committee, and we will be a good place for to act as a resource for folks who have questions about that and want to understand more. But there will be some changes in who can provide certain services, how much of services that we can, that people can experience, and how those services will be delivered. So just know that that information is about to come out. There is going to be some panic. There's always panic when there's change, right? Just know that July is the public comment period. So when we make an amendment to the waiver, and I say we like I work for the state of Indiana, but when the state of Indiana makes an amendment of substantial change, there has to be a 30-day public comment period before those changes can be submitted to CMS, which is the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services at a federal level. And nothing happens until CMS says it happens, but we are mandated by law to have a 30-day comment period. So just know to be watching that that's coming in July. And if people will have opinions, and people should have opinions because it's going to impact services. Some of this is, we're in a challenge because in the state of Indiana, we have a $1 billion shortfall in Medicaid, which is billion with a B. That's a lot of dollars. And so there's certainly an effort to be more efficient and to be, I think, more streamlined and accountable so that we can adjust that shortfall without cutting people out of services or impacting the quality of services that we have. So I'm happy to answer any questions, those questions that I can answer. I know some of this from a different hat that I wear. So I will know that it's coming, and I can share that it's coming. I would really just make sure that you're keeping an ear to those changes and people's opinions, and feel free to make public comment. The state has they have a commitment, and they have to address public comment and integrate that into the final amendment that is submitted to CMS. So I can't understate how important that is. If you have a child or a loved one, or you work as a service provider, just know that July is going to be an important month for you to watch for those changes and share your opinions. Okay? Any other thing for community support? Something else that's happening that I also I don't know very much about, I'll be fair, but because it has been something we've been so excited about. Many of you know that the Community Rec Center is being built, and I've been there, it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's gonna be such a great resource for this community. For a very long time, we believed that Outside the Box would be in partnership with the rec center, and part of their program would be operated out of the rec center. That was one of the reasons we came to Fishers, or that Outside the Box came to Fishers. And my understanding is that is not happening now. I don't know a lot of details about that, but I did want to at least share that with the committee so that you know. That is no longer, at least in the intended plan, it is no longer happening. So, the next one is networking, social connections and accessibility. And we are going to turn it over to you to talk about July 12th.
Okay, I am super excited. July 12th is our Fishers Farmers Market Accessible and Inclusion Day. Right now, there are two parts to that. There are the vendors, and then there are the performers. So I'm going to address the vendors first. That application went up online not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and it is going to be online through the end of June. Then we'll get all that information together. We'll take a look and see who's what, making sure that everybody is connected to the disability community in some way. Because last year we had a business that didn't have a connection. And then we will let them know that, hey, you're accepted, and that's kind of the process. And then we'll have a meeting the Tuesday before, I believe, and let them know, hey, this is where we're going. The tents are here. This is what is required. Blah, 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 all the different guidelines that go along with that. And then Saturday is our day from 8 to noon. And last year, Wilbur and Chrissy helped me, which was great, in 2-hour shifts. I'm looking for anybody who'd like to volunteer again to just manning the table, just sitting at the table. Chrissy was great last year. She saw students go by. She was just awesome. And so was Wilbur, because he brought in our little sign, which I need to check with Ross, because he talked about a pop-up sign.
Yeah, so I sent him.
We're gonna have a table grape this year.
But
We did.
I talked to Lorena, Fishers Park, and she thinks it's gonna be too windy for a pop-up sign. I'm not sure, but I knew we're getting, I think, another A-frame sign to kind of direct
I
people.
think we also are getting a tablecloth.
Yes.
And so I sent the original draft to Ross. Molly, if you could follow up with him, I know he was just gonna circle back with PR and send us a final draft.
Yep, I know that he sent the request in, and I think someone's designing it now, but I'll
Awesome.
follow up.
Okay, good. 'Cause
Will we
then-
have an interpreter there?
I don't know. How would I get?
Could we have an interpreter there?
Yeah.
That
And
would be great.
how would I make that happen? Or
We
would
tell
just-
Molly we
I
want it to
can book
happen.
it.
Okay.
Molly is,
I was like, how do I make that happen?
we're making Molly do her job.
I will book it from
Will you
8 to
inquire on
noon.
that? That'd be great, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
That's exciting. I was, again, in a different hat that I was wearing. We were talking about the Fishers Inclusion Day at the Farmers Market. And it was with the Arc of Indiana, which, if you don't know what the Arc of Indiana is, they are the go-to state advocacy organization for really providing resources, referrals, education for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, also some folks with mental health challenges, and their families and people in their lives. And they were like, well, why don't we know about that? And I was like, well, that's a really good opportunity for us to reach out to maybe like the Autism Society, NRF, Special Olympics, and some other partners that we often work with, Best Buddies, Unified Sports. Like, I think it would be great if we could share the information about that day with those resources, because that would be a great service to the community. And it's,
So I know Best Buddies, they were there last year, and I sent
Okay,
that
good.
information out. I have to check on the Special Olympics, because I think I don't think they were not present there last year, but I sent out originally like a beginning email saying,
Great.
hey, this is So if anybody has additional contacts, please either send them to my way or please forward the email that announced.
Did you send that out?
I did send that out to everybody. I sent that on May 20th. I said the application link for the vendors to sign up is being held, it's
Okay.
not open.
Do you
So-
mind sending it again?
I will send, yeah, I'll be glad to.
I want to make sure that you have my correct email address as well. Here you go, have a card.
Okay, Thank you. Let me make myself a note. Well, I remember. Okay, and then, Molly, I don't have your email, so I'll have to get that to you, so that way you're on board with that. And we have, for the performers, we have out of the box from 10 to 11, and they asked for a 30, 40 minute, which is fine. We were trying not to have dead space on the stage, so if they don't need the full 40 minutes, then we could open up that spot for somebody else.
Okay.
And then from 11:30 to 12, Bold will be there. So I have the 11 to 11:30 spot open if anybody knows of a group that would like to perform. I think maybe, Chrissy, did you send me some performers or some?
Last year I did. Will you send your open time slot when you forward us that email? Because
Okay.
what I'll do is I'll send it to UPA. We have unified dance, we have unified cheer, and we have unified choir.
Okay.
Do we have a Teams link? Because apparently Katie's trying to join and, anything else for networking, social accessibility? Does anybody have,
I have one more thing.
okay, go ahead.
And I sent this out, I think, to everyone too. Next Monday, June 16th from 5 to 8, the Ahuda Saturday School Special
yeah.
Needs students are going to be working the Brew with Love business, and that's where they get behind the counter. They serve pastries and coffee and take your money. And so, yeah, that's going to be on 116th Street here in Fishers. And they're special needs students, but they also opened it up to any special needs students. So if, if there are some special needs students, let's say Thrive wants to go and join them, they're more, they're very welcoming to that. So that is next Monday from 5 to 8. And I think Ross had shared the Instagram link of the Ahuda, I know I'm not pronouncing that right, their Saturday school. So that way we could get that up also with the Fishers publicity. So that's the only other thing that I know of right now. They usually have that like once every 1 to 2 months, where the special needs students serve coffee and pastries and so forth. So I'm really glad that they wanted to collaborate with us so that way that we can get their information out there.
Yep, that's awesome.
And I saw they're over there by Tide Cleaners, just east of Cumberland and 116th. I didn't even know they were there, so.
I
Gonna
did
have to
not know that.
Yeah.
Stop by and get a crepe or something.
Oh, is that the chocolate dip place?
It does have a crepe with chocolate in the little thing, and then a waffle with chocolate.
I'd like to have one of those right now. Does anybody know, has Thrive been doing their regular stuff?
I have not seen anything lately, but that does not mean
Yeah.
it is not active as usual. We might be able to see them at the concert tonight.
Maybe. I know, I was surprised I could get a parking spot. Okay, so no other things on, I guess I'll do networking and social, it's sort of PR related. One of the things we had asked was, would we be allowed to have a Facebook page? And I believe Ross was gonna talk to PR about that. I followed up with them at one point, but I haven't heard back. I know that you, as the city of Fishers, we don't want like 14 different city of Fishers. And I have great respect for that. But our stuff is so focused that I feel like it would get lost. Or maybe never found. I mean, maybe never really integrated in the City of Fishers website, because it's just so, what we do is kind of an expertise, kind of for resources. So if you could follow up on that too, Molly, get your job done.
Yeah, I will. But I did ask if they could incorporate us more like on the content calendar that they have. And they did say if we get a list of topics put together and, you know, if we want to teach some ASL phrases or words or
Sure.
things like that, they would incorporate those in. And then, of course, they're always going to support like the March and the September and the October. But I will follow up with that with Ross and Kara.
Okay.
If it was like, if it did have to be with the city, if it was every Wednesday, like, if there was like a regular cadence to when the
Yeah.
decision, that would help separate that out.
Right, and I think they just want to balance,
Yeah.
everything, so
I'm okay if
We
the
can talk.
answer's no. I just want to know that there is an answer.
one way or another.
Yep.
Got it.
I'm thinking we'd want one or two people to be administrators, just so that anybody and everybody couldn't post on that.
Oh, yeah, we wouldn't get to
Absolutely.
post it. We'd have to
That
send
would
it.
go through
It would go
administrators.
through PR.
And they're pretty lean. I mean, they handle an awful lot of stuff for a small group, so I'm not trying to add anything, but, Jason, I'm not sure if, you would be the person to ask. Do we know about how the closed caption initiative is going?
Yes.
Hmm?
So far, we have a subcommittee with the deaf and hard of hearing, and it's been great so far with the captions. More and more people are noticing it, and they're using it in different places, like on TVs in restaurants, and the restaurant owners are willing to work with them to make sure that they're turning on the captions, and it's been going really well so far.
Oh, good.
Especially recently when they were hosting the Pacers watch party. That group was really impressed with having the captions available. You know, walking by the different restaurants and things like that, they could see the TVs with the captions on. So imagine if we can get all businesses and all places like that. I mean, and it's not just for deaf people, because it's so noisy at events like this. Having the captions on is beneficial for a lot of people, and it's great to get the message and awareness out there.
So I was out amongst my fellow citizens watching the Pacers game at Parks Place Pub, which they have lots and lots of different shows showing at the same time. And I was appreciative of closed captioning because, of course, the Pacers were playing on the audio system, but I was able to watch the closed captioning on the movie they were showing, which was Bad News Bears. And I haven't seen it in so long, and I was like, oh, yeah. But, you know, they had closed captioning up there, which was really helpful, because then I could multitask. So I'm glad to hear that that's going well.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
I know this isn't necessarily Hamlin County, but when we went to the Pacers watch party at the field house, or Gamebridge, they now have 2 closed captioned fields or display marquees or whatever, where the words are actually fill in, where you can, you know, see what's being said or what the announcers are saying.
Oh, that's
Which
great.
I've never seen that before, which was I took a picture, I was so excited. Yeah.
That's
So
very cool.
I think Jason, yes, Jason.
Gamebridge is, they've got some really cool things for accessibility. They have a sensor board in there and a lot of really cool things. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, Jason's Linda.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Fishers Event Center. You know, hopefully we can have the same thing going on there, because, you know, and with the stadium to have captions on the screen there, and I think that would, hopefully they'll have the right equipment for that, and, yeah.
Molly, who would be the person for us to really work with at the Fishers Event Center? Because I've heard that it is really hard to navigate. for people with disabilities.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I would like to hear more about that because I think you guys know this one well.
Okay, that would be great. And I think not just the closed captioning for folks who are deaf and hard of hearing, but when you have somebody who has purchased a ticket to an event and they need to request wheelchair accessible seating, that has been a disaster for some and good for others. So, and it could be that appropriate processes exist, but the community doesn't know, right? So if we could maybe just get more information so that we could share that.
Yes, I did see an email about that, go back and forth, that it was with the tickets being offered and they did have some solutions, but I will
Good.
forward that to you all.
That'd be great. The other thing oh, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was included with that, and so we will continue that conversation to continue with the ASM, and so I will continue working on that, and not just with captions, but within a few other areas for other disabilities. But awareness is important, but it also takes some time to get things really rolling.
The other thing that struck me, so I happen to be the individual that does training for Hamilton County's CIT officer training, which is crisis intervention team. So it's all first responders, dispatch, and they do a really nice job of covering so many different topics. But I wonder if, and you would probably know, Jason, do you know if they include in CIT training any deaf and hard of hearing awareness?
Well, it's not there yet. We're still reviewing that and working on that training program, but I'm happy to be a part of it. And we can talk about that more kind of offline.
Okay, because I think I can help with that, and help advocate for, even if I had to share some of my time, I think it's really important for the deaf and hard of hearing community to be heard at that training for folks, so I'd be happy to help. Any other questions on networking, social accessibility? Okay. Website content, updates and edits and logo options. Who's talking about that? That'd be great.
I think that's something we're going to put in the work session to be able to really go down the rabbit hole and get all of the items addressed. I did make some updates just when I came on board just to get everything kind of cleaned up. So I know you guys had some feedback too, so we can work together with any future updates needed. And then as far as the logo goes, I asked our PR team to take a peek, and so maybe by the work session, I'll have some more information to share then.
Great. Just a note about the work session. Most of you know that Cecilia has had a family emergency and is out of state currently. So she's such a impactful voice and leader in this group that certainly that is why we canceled the work session, and we will definitely have it. I think it's really important for us to look at all of the input from the My Point of View Day that we had in March at the hosting of Mayor Fadness. And so we are going to look at that to be rescheduled soon. I would say you all received the link with all of the feedback from each of the roundtables that were represented that day. We're going to have to drill down on that on our own time before we come to that work session so that we have some idea and can be efficient with our time, because there's a lot of really good input from the community. It was a great day. I think every year we get a little nugget out of that we are able to really make a difference. And, you know, a lot of communities in and around central Indiana hold Fishers in high admiration for what we do for awareness and accessibility efforts in the city of Fishers. So we want to continue with that and just keep watching. We will get that rescheduled. And at that time, we will look at the website as well as the logo options. You know, I think that the base logo of what we use for March Disability Awareness Month should for certain be a part of it, because that's almost a brand now that goes with this committee. And then I think you can change the text around it, obviously, whether it's March Disability or October Disability Employment Month. But I really like using that as our base sort of brand, because it's a great logo, and it's worked really well for us for several years now. Announcements.
I just had a quick question, Molly, if for you, when you're talking about adding to the content calendar, how, if you don't know, if you can let us know how far ahead we need to know. So like, if we're looking at things for October, like when do we need to make sure we're on the calendar? So I didn't know how far ahead they were working on
Okay.
that, so.
I'll check, and then, yeah, if you even have like a list now of things you foresee, we can get on there.
Okay,
As
but
soon
yeah,
as
that'll just
possible.
help us as we plan to.
Yep. I have a few items.
I do, oh Lord. Just want to share one more time that the Indiana Family to Family statewide virtual conference is coming up. The great thing about that is it's virtual, and it allows a lot of families to be a part of that that are not typically able to get out and do things in person. And if I could tell you what day it is, I'd love to do that, but I'm having trouble finding it. But you would go to www.inf as in Frank, the number 2, and then another F, so indianafamilytofamily.org. IN2F2, sorry, start over. INF2F.org. Their conference is usually great, and it's very, very supportive of family and caregivers, folks who are supporting individuals with different kinds of challenges. So I would suggest that you all check that out. Any other announcements?
I have one. We have Kara Hall from our PR team who has presented before on accessibility for digital websites, and so she's available if we would like to speak at the September meeting. So just let
That'd
me
be
know
great.
and we can book her for that.
Would love that.
Okay. I think she was thinking that would be enough time to learn the new legislation that's going into place, so she can make those changes.
Okay.
And
Are
then-
there any other areas that you feel like we need to secure? We haven't done that as well most recently. Had speakers come in and share their expertise that would be beneficial in the community and what we do. Does anybody have other areas they would like to have us look at as far as bringing in speakers? Nope. Well, I don't think there's any other announcements, and we made it beautifully through our reports, and we know our steps forward. So at this point, I would love to have a movement towards adjournment.
So moved.
Who seconds? Michelle? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, guys.
He just loves that gavel.
Take it away from you.
He loves
gonna take
smacking
it
that
home.
thing.